we've got Honorable Dayo Bush Alibioshi here with us. He's a former member of the House of Reps from 2007 up until 15. And then in Abuja, we also do have Rio here with us. He's Rio Dari, your rights activist. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. You know, sometimes when you look at the stats, staring us in the face, you know, when you want to highlight some of them, it's kind of discouraging. Is it from those who are out of school? Is it from the youth unemployment? The courses that will be extinct in 5, 10 years? Then this is staring us in the face of what our population will be in 10 years. It's challenging, you know, but the policies that we also do have don't seem to be in tune with current realities. I stand corrected on that one. But from your perspective, which is why we try to focus on setting an agenda for the incoming leaders, what kind of issues should they be focusing on for instance, job creation? What would your recommendations be?
First of all, we need to identify the things we're dealing with, what problems face us. There's a saying that you don't tell a blind man it's raining. He knows for himself that it's raining. We all know what's going on currently. When we look at the current standing of the educational sector, you'd find out that a lot of companies don't want to hire you unless you have a minimum of a second-class upper, which is 2-1. Now, even that is quite shaky right now. So you find out that people who go outside of the shores of Nigeria are first reckoned with before those who went to school here. This is something that's out there in the public space. The moment we're able to identify, as policymakers, I'm not even looking at the executive arm right now. For any democracy to thrive, we need to understand that in terms of economy, in terms of whatever you want to look at, you have to look at the policy-making arm of government, which is either the National Assembly or the state assemblies. How well equipped are those to chair the various committees? For example, we need to take a look at who would be the ones chairing the committees on education. What is their expertise? What's their understanding of policies and issues concerning education globally? You just said something now. It says that in another 10 years, not even up to 10 years, by 2025, about 45% of courses or professions right now will be obsolete, which means even if you have a PhD in certain programs, you wouldn't be. It's being said currently that with AI, artificial intelligence, that you and I may not even want a doctor operating on us anymore. You'd be amazed that come a few years, you wouldn't have to see a doctor physically to consult. You probably have to hold on to something and it'll tell you everything wrong with your body. If you're going to be operated upon, it'll be entered and everything is done, you know, with absolute precision. Now, for you to understand that, in our educational sector, we're already dealing with issues like some things I'm passionate about, like dyslexia, dyscalculia, and a lot of things. Now, these are the people that are termed to be olodos, if you know what I'm saying. Whereas dyslexia is just a neurological issue. It means you learn differently. You process things differently. And if you don't understand this, we are still in a system where teachers hold, you're intimidated with the cane to understand. Now, that leads you to thinking, is there a difference when you're intimidated by the cane? You're forced to take in what the teacher said, but have you understood it? That now leads to you, to the difference between having a retentive memory and being a brilliant student. You find out you just go through the programs, you pass your exams. These are the people who would eventually turn out in society, and then you begin to wonder, who are those that would want to be taken on? I've said it here before as well that there has to be incentive for you to go to school, which is what is going on right now. Let us really take a look at NYSC. Let us forget about, it's meant to keep Nigeria together. Your belly would keep Nigeria together.
Okay, we'll still come to that. Let me ask Dari. Look, we've had several people who, at different times, have accused rights groups, activists, different people of not focusing on the real issues and, by extension, encouraging the transactional nature of politics, thereby not getting us anywhere. Do you think that they have a point when they accuse groups, perhaps including the groups such as yours, of not focusing or putting the leaders under the right kind of pressure to get us developmental results?
Yeah, Chamberlain, I tend to also agree, be it with some of those people who have those concerns, simply because, you see, if there is one area that has faltered in our nation, is the consistency of the civil society, right activists, and in none probably maybe holding government accountable consistently. Because what happened is that where you stand over the years in terms of how you pursue your issues. For instance, recently, there were discussion over the issue of asset declaration, issue of CCB. I'm just giving an example. And some people thought probably I was doing it simply because I'm just a critic of the current administration. But I went into the archive and I brought out a statement, and not even a statement, an article that I wrote when the former president of the country, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, said he doesn't give a damn about asset declaration. When I said I give a better damn. I've been a relentless pursuer of the issue of the need for public officers to openly declare their assets, and I will continue to fight for that. That has been the only document consistently I've been submitting to every constitutional review arrangement that has been put in place in this country since right from time I left school, because I believe that you cannot serve our nation and be hiding your asset, and I don't like a situation whereby the executive is also using this asset declaration via the CCB and CCT, the Code of Conduct Tribunal, as just a persecuting instrument, which it has turned to be. So there must be that consistency and focus. However, based on the fact that we have also not done enough in terms of setting agenda for elected officials, but some of us have said certain things which people have known us for. The only thing is that some people tend to look at it from a different angle. There is nothing bad if you are an activist, if you are a pro-democracy group and you belong to a political party or you have a political orientation. We have consistently tried to educate people about some of these things there. Nelson Mandela, you can't take it away from him, was an activist. Gani Fawehinmi was an activist. These people had political parties. But what matters is that where you stand when it comes to the issue of the Nigerian public, I mean the issue of the public, either in Nigeria, in South Africa, or anywhere, are you consistently on the path of the people? That is what is sacrosanct. You can be an activist and you be in APC, you be in PDP, you be in SDP, it doesn't matter. What about the overriding issue in terms of setting agenda for the people even within your party and in the nation? Now look at what is going on in Nigeria today. Chamberlain, we must be doing a sprint in terms of restructuring in this country. The only agenda that I think today, that if we are serious about what is going on, the tsunami is coming and we can see it. I'm happy that different interest groups in the northern part of the country, in the southern part of the country today, have been doing press conferences and have been talking about the nature of insecurity. Believe me sincerely, the bombing that is going on in Zamfara and all the military operations will not stop this tsunami that is coming if we don't restructure Nigeria. We are talking about scarce resources. We are talking about the population expansion. We are talking about lack of capacity to solve some of those problems. But yet we think that we are using all this very minute approach to solving problems. No, it's not going to. The biggest challenge that some of us have been telling them, some people have perceived restructuring as something that is anti one group or the other. No. I bet you, Chamberlain, people are going to beg for restructuring in the years ahead in this country, because from Zamfara to the northeast, to the northwest, this country is not safe anymore.
In terms of selecting our leaders, what are we fundamentally getting wrong?
I respectfully say this. We as a people are very smart people. We know our rights, but not our responsibilities. When it comes to choosing leadership, it's a very serious issue. It's a very heavy responsibility. But I'm sure you would agree with me that leadership is usually based on how well you like this person. For example, most leaders are not known until maybe a year to when it's election time. They're packaged and sold in what I called they're sold as is.
Globally or here?
I would say it's prevalent here. Globally, people. I mean, if you look at the West and some other countries, you would hear, well, he's already earned the presidency or the senatorial seat in 4 years prior to that time. If you look at, you see some people who are groomed actually from a very young age. That's not the case here. Most people you would see would say, I like that person, or I don't like this leader. And I usually use the example of going to a restaurant to eat. You will not go to a restaurant and ask to see the face of the cook if the cook is good looking or not, whether the cook is Hausa, Yoruba, or Igbo. What you're bothered about when you're sat in a restaurant is you want food and you want it to taste good. You want good food. But that's not the case here. Now, you go into selecting a leader whose character you don't know, whose antecedents you don't know, whose blueprint, except for what they say.
Give us the benefit of hindsight. I mean, you've been in politics.
Correct.
When, my apologies, when politicians, try to manipulate the fault lines of Nigerians, are there other politicians who raise such concerns, saying that, no, we don't think that this is the way to go? I know that if that happens, that'll be in the minority, but do they really ever come up? Because not many people see them or hear them.
That's why you have parties in power and you have opposition parties. There has to be a balance. You would have people who are like the gentleman who was who's speaking from Abuja, civil rights activists. There's a lot going on. The system, there's need for what you call a reset. There's need for what you call reset. There's need for what you call cultural reorientation, cultural change. If you remember Fela's song Teacher, it says, "Who be government teacher, culture and tradition." The culture and tradition is what, don't forget rulers. When I say rulers, I'm talking about leaders rather. When you talk about leaders, they're all Nigerians. They're not foreigners. They're from Nigeria. And what is the mentality? What is the mindset? What I actually find amazing is that, I've said this severally, that most leaders have come from humble backgrounds. And when you come from humble backgrounds, you understand what poverty is like. You understand what suffering is like. But how many actually look back once they get to positions of power?
Mr. Atoyo, let me ask you this. Mr. Alubioshi here, Honorable Alubioshi here has talked about the quality of leaders that we have. Do you think, as Nigerians, we interrogate the quality of leaders that we employ?
Absolutely not. We don't do that because we didn't put in place sufficient parameters for interrogating our leaders. For instance, even the minimum, we don't even tend to obey. The minimum was to even put in place something like a debate. We're supposed to be a rigorous process for interrogating some of our leaders. You saw what happened prior to the last general elections. A lot of them decide not to come for debate simply because one thing is that they don't want Nigerians to interrogate them. We're talking about people who are going to start to govern us from May 29, 2019. I also want to add that those who even be talking about, who should be probably seeking our mandate in 2023, by now should be one of signaling their intention. Because like what some of us wanted to do is that, can we able to try what we call the anti-establishment movement for 2023? But for 2019 here, we've already had these leaders because we never interrogate them. I don't think we should give up trying to do the right thing. Our leadership recruitment process is very faulty. It's totally not. It is possible that somebody that is not even doesn't have such a commitment, that you can put in place certain structural processes that can allow that person to become so concerned about what happens and what happens to the people. We don't tend to have all this in our nation. Now, people are being voted for. Now, setting agenda for them now is going to be very, very even difficult, because that social contract was not even there between them, and the people, simply because they believe that, look, I use my money to buy my vote. I use the influence of my party to rig my way into, this office. So why should I be concerned? A lot of those people have borrowed a huge amount of money to win elections. It's going to be difficult for them to be that concerned much about the Nigerian people. However, what are we able to salvage from, at least from the little that we have now, simply because they've already been elected? Now that we have them coming on board, we must tell them that, look, this nation if we get it wrong, we're all going to suffer from it. If we get it right, we believe that we're all going to benefit from it. Now, for 2019, like I said, one thing that some of us are going to be pursuing is this issue of restructuring. We have to restructure Nigeria. We have to restructure Nigeria. We have to restructure
Mr. Toyo,
Nigeria.
before you go there,
this country is not working.
Let's interrogate this one a little further. Now they're in office. Just as you said, we can't just give up. How do we hold them accountable? They're in office already. In the National Assembly, the Senate, House of Representatives, the House of Assembly, they're already in office. They're going to form committees. They're going to perform oversight functions. They're going to make laws for Nigerians. Whether we like it or not, they're going to be there. How do we ensure that we get the quality of leadership that we want, even if they are not the quality of people that we want?
Yeah, thank you very much. We have the executive, we have the legislative, and basically what we need to do as probably members of the civil society is to continue to galvanize other members of this very important sector. It is the responsibility of the media, the responsibility of the civil society, the responsibility of even some members of the political class, because the decisions that will be emanating from either the National Assembly, from the executive, these things are going to affect every one of us. Now, we must have people who are going to stay on the issues, continue to call them out when they are not doing what they're supposed to do. In terms of the executive, we also must have people who will continue to demand for accountability. And from some of us, we have different instruments, like putting pressure on them if it needs be, to go out on the street to call people to demonstrate, even though I know they don't like it, to continue to do probably by way of maybe press conferences and some other actions that are civil in nature to be able to drive this accountability issue that we're talking about. In terms of the National Assembly, I believe that the responsibility is even higher on them now to be able to see how they can force the executive to do certain things in the overall interest of the nation. Now, for instance, the way and manner we are talking about the issue of subsidy, that is not clear, that Nigeria today is consuming more than 50 million liters monthly, which we cannot explain to our nation. The National Assembly must get down to the root of this matter. The National Assembly must demand accountability from the executive. Let us know what is going on in our nation. We want a National Assembly that is vibrant. That is why the issue of leadership that has been in contention in the last couple of days about who becomes the Speaker, who becomes the Senate President of this country, President of the Senate. These are things that we have to look at in terms of those who have the capacity to be able to do it. I know that we also have to accommodate our fault lines and then be sensitive to our ethno-religious perception. However, in even trying to accommodate those interests, like for instance, we said, okay, people have been talking about leadership in the Senate, leadership in the House of Reps. Some of the things some of us are trying to do is to probably be able to guide them to say, look, in looking for capacity, you also have to be sensitive to every part of this country. I've seen a debate going on here. I'm not from the Southeast, I'm from the Southwest. They're not talking about having a leader from the southeast of this country. All these things, we have to put them into contention for us to be able to have a nation that works. We need the best of this nation to work for the overall interest of this nation.
Okay,
These
Mr.
are some of the things we must drive, and we must not shy away from it.